I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. and I'll call on Councillor Decker to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hadi-Wanderong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you, Councillor Decker. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? I got Councillor D'Angelo and Councillor O'Hare. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adoption of the minutes. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes? Councillor Decker and Councillor Didavides. Are there any questions regarding CL 24-2023 or CL 25-2023? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Mayor's report. On November 23rd, I attended and brought remarks on behalf of City Council at the Niagara Renewable Natural Gas Facility grand opening located at 2800 Town Line Road, part of the Walker Industries campus. Economic Development Manager Ken Schultens joined me at this event. Also speaking were Walker Industries President and CEO Jordy Walker, Ontario Minister of Energy Todd Smith, Ontario Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks Andrea Conjin, MPP Sam Oysterhoff, City of Niagara Falls Mayor Jim Diodati, and from Enbridge Gas Heidi Prasad. This facility is a partnership between Walker Industries, Comcor Environmental, and Enbridge Gas. It is the largest RNG project in Ontario. The Niagara facility will capture and refine landfill gas into a low-carbon RNG, providing enough clean energy for more than 8,750 residential homes, on top of what they are already distributing to the General Motors plant on Glendale Avenue. This project will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 48,000 tons per year, the equivalent of taking 10,300 cars off the road each year. On November 23rd, I also brought greetings on behalf of Council to the 2023 Niagara Early Learning and Child Care Awards of Excellence held in conjunction with the Early Childhood Community Development Center's 30th anniversary celebration held at Club Roma. The ECCDC, located on Schmoen Parkway in the city of Thorold, is a charitable organization inspiring excellence in early learning and child care through thought leadership, cutting-edge training, innovative resources, and coaching services, highlighting best practices and emerging trends. Once again, congratulations on your 30th anniversary. On November 24th, the BMI Group and Hope Ports were awarded the Renew Brownie Award for redevelopment at the community scale. The event was held in Toronto, and Economic Development Manager Ken Schultens attended on our behalf. The Brownie Awards recognize the builders, innovators, and visionaries who are dedicated to the rehabilitation of brownfield sites that were once contaminated, underutilized, and undeveloped into productive projects that contribute to the growth of healthy communities across Canada. Through the combined efforts of multiple stakeholders, the vision of leveraging Thorold's strategic location along the Welland Canal, access to on-site rail, and Ontario's highway system to attract manufacturing, logistics, and transportation companies has become a reality known as the Thorold Multimodal Hub. Great news and congratulations. The 31st Annual Santa Claus Parade, held on Saturday, November 25th, was very successful with large crowds throughout the parade route. Councillors O'Hare, who was the Grinch, D'Angelo, Didavides, Decker, Hanley, Longo, DeRose, and Regional Councillor Whalen also participated. Thank you to our sponsors, the Special Events Committee, all city staff involved, especially Jacob Tedesco, Dave Baldoni, Steve Santo, Tessa Bonacor, Carrie Gruel, Natalie Stickles, and Danny Vukovic, Also, thank you to those who attended the parade. Your show of support and appreciation make all the effort worthwhile. Over 1,200 pounds of food were collected for community care by the TCAG along the parade route. We look forward to next year. On November 28th, we raised the Positive Living Niagara flag in recognition of HIV/AIDS Week at City Hall. Councillors O'Hare, Didavitas, Sentence, Regional Councillor Whalen, city staff, and representatives from Positive Living Niagara were in attendance. November 24th to December 1st marked Canadian HIV/AIDS Awareness Week nationally and culminates in the international observance of World AIDS Day on December 1st. This year's theme was Equalize. In addition to the flag raising, there was the Red Scarf Project, where handmade scarves donated by the Niagara community are collected by Positive Living Niagara, who take the scarves and attach a hand tag with HIV/AIDS information. Those scarves are tied on lampposts, meters, and trees for anyone to take, keep warm, educate, and create awareness regarding HIV/AIDS. On November 29th, I was joined by Tessa Buonacor and Natalie Stickles at the Community Forum presentation at the Niagara Regional Housing Building on 45 Ormond Street. This heartwarming presentation was the result of the Through Their Eyes project, a joint venture between Brock University and Niagara Regional Housing. Brock University students and Niagara Regional Housing senior residents engaged in this project, and the results of that interaction were reported. On December 1st, I was joined by Councillors O'Hare, Didavitas, Longo, D'Angela, Decker, Regional Councillor Whalen, and city staff for a group photo with Bethesda CEO Paul McGowan. We wore T-shirts to help spread awareness and show support for International Day of Persons with Disabilities. December 3rd was the day of observance aimed to promote an understanding of disability issues and mobilize support for the dignity, rights, and well-being of persons with disabilities. City Hall was also illuminated purple to show solidarity and shine a light on these amazing people who are part of our community. On December 2nd, I was joined by Councillors D'Angela, O'Hare, Didavitas, BIA Chair Serge Carpino, and our Community Relations Specialist, Natalie Stickles, at the grand reopening of RH Brows and Beauty Salon located at 46B Front Street South. Thank you, Reagan Hedden and staff, for your continued commitment to the City of Thorold. All the best and continued success in your new location. On December 2nd, the Friends of Beaver Dams Church held their annual food drive, wreath hanging, and carol singing event. It was very well attended, and I was joined by Councillor D'Angela and O'Hare. 1,173 pounds of non-perishable food donations were collected for community care. On December 6th, the flags across the city were lowered to half-mast to commemorate the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. Established in 1991 by the Government of Canada, this day marks the anniversary of the murders in 1989 of 14 young women at l'École Polytechnique de Montréal. December 6th is also an opportunity to reflect on violence against women in our society. Councillor O'Hare and Regional Councillor Whalen attended the Niagara Regional Labour Council breakfast held on December 6th at Club Capri to commemorate the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. December 8th, the Great Holiday Food Drive for Community Care St. Catharines Thorold was held, and the bus rolled into Thorold with stops at Prince of Wales School and Foodland. This is the largest food drive of the year. The support was overwhelming, and the need this year is greater than ever. I would like to thank our community who continue to step up and support those in need. Councillor Didavitas and Councillor O'Hare also attended this event. Thank you goes out to Port Robinson Community Center and the Thorold Lions Club, who hosted Breakfast with Santa events this past weekend. As winter weather approaches, please keep in mind vehicles parked on the roadway prevent winter maintenance crews from clearing the roadway of snow in a timely and efficient manner. Let's do our part to keep the roads clear and safe for everyone. Please remember, during snow clearing events, you are allowed to park on the apron until such time that the plow has cleared your street. Your vehicle must then return to the street for parking if required. The Thorold Community Arena is offering a number of holiday skates between December 27th and January 6th. As a special treat, the city will be serving free hot chocolate and popcorn during the public holiday skates. Please visit the City of Thorold website, thorold.ca, for more information. Please be advised that the City of Thorold municipal offices will be closed from Monday, December 25th through Monday, January 1st for the holidays. Regular hours will resume on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. And in closing, since this is our last council meeting before the holiday season, on behalf of City Council and staff, happy holidays, season's greetings, Merry Christmas, and a happy, healthy New Year. The holidays are a time for families, friends, and loved ones to come together, reflect on cherished moments, make new memories, and look forward to the promise of hope and opportunity embodied in the new year. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. And now we'll move on to Regional Council update, and I'll welcome Regional Councillor Tim Whalen to the podium.
I trust that this microphone is on, Mr. Mayor? No? Okay, green light's on. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor Ugolini and City Councilor, the staff, and residents of Thorold. It's great to be here once again. Just give a brief update of some of the happenings here in the Niagara region. There are a few projects related to speed controls, which has been a major issue in Thorold for some time, and most of the residents will finally see somewhat happiness of what's being put into place for them. Firstly, Mayor Ugolini went to bat for the new speed controls in front of the new proposed dog park on Beaver Dams Road, which is a working project, and I'm sure that will come to fruition before not too long. Secondly, the speed has been an issue on Merritt Road and Eastman Gateway on Merritt intersection here in Thorold, up towards the Welland Fairgrounds. The population growth on both sides of the 406 has been a major concern. Even more so when the city blessed the area with a new playground at the same intersection a short while ago. The residents have asked for something to be done, and the region funded a speed and traffic study, and just over a week ago, speed and traffic study proved to be fruitful, and a speed sign went into place. Notification was erected, which has started heading west from the 406 toward the Niagara Street. So hopefully this will slow down, but it's only just the things that come. To go along with that, there's a start of a study that's being completed with a traffic impact design study from 406 west to Rice Road. So hopefully that will come to fruition also and really put the area at ease as far as traffic. And last but not least, last September, Collier Road was designated as one of the new 12 community safety zones. I don't know whether anybody noticed the signs just north of the Highway 58 northbound, just up to where Lawrence Drive is, which is just south of Lawrence Drive. There's two signs in that intersection. This area will cover both schools in the vicinity, and speed controls have been added where 40 kilometers per hour when lights are flashing, and now have the ability to double the fines if anybody's speeding in those areas. The region also set up in September 13 more zones that has automated speed enforcement zones elsewhere in the region. In addition to the speed limits and traffic calming, cameras have almost also been implemented in these areas to curb speeding and issue tickets. Now, it's not that we want to give tickets, just that we want to slow people down. So if we don't give any tickets, the campaign is a success. And then going forward to Q1 next year, staff will come back with a report, and hopefully things have gone well in those 13 areas, that these cameras will be put into place on Collier Road on a rotating basis with the rest of Niagara. So again, if no tickets are handed out, things have succeeded to the fact that we don't have a problem. But so just be aware that come next year, hopefully those cameras will be in place along Collier Road, and it will be posted that the cameras are in place. So something to look forward to slow things down, because I think everybody in this room has probably had a complaint about that area. The problem was that we'd like to go from the Highway 58 right down Burley Hill, but I guess the ministry won't allow that distance. So we're covering the two schools in Thorold at least to cover things for us. So that covers the basic about speed control. I don't know whether anybody's got any questions about anything else that's going on in the region. I'd be happy to see if I can answer them for you.
And did you just want to say that you'll be back early in the new year with a presentation on the budget?
That's right.
Because
It's just a little short notice right now because it comes to bylaw on Thursday of this week.
Yeah.
So it's still premature to give a report on it, but before long after New Year, I will be back to give full idea of what happened during the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I will say one thing, though. It hasn't been easy this year. We've had 11 meetings. You can attest to the number of hours we put in. Besides the fact I sit as a budget co-chair, so it's been a long haul, so we'll give full idea of what happened to come New Year.
Okay, are there any questions for Regional Councillor Whalen? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo, and then I got Councillor Hanley over here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
And then I got DeRose, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Regional Councillor Whalen. Appreciate the update. Just in regards to the cameras on the on the speed zones of the community, well, will you be, I know you won't have them now, will you be able to provide some information regarding that, like in details of how many tickets were issued? I know a few people that have been issued tickets speeding in those zones, so I'm sure the numbers are going to be high, but it'd be nice to know what those numbers are.
Most definitely. We're supposed to get those reports in the first part, quarter one this year, so I'll get back to you.
Excellent. If you could share that with Thorold Council, that'd be
I
great.
know there was quite a few irate people, so that means they weren't obeying the rules, so which even more so.
But if you're speeding, there's no reason to be irate in a community zone. So.
Yes, I definitely will get back to you.
Okay, excellent. That was one question. Well, question two was, and again, I don't need an answer right now, but I was reading about the transit, and they were looking at getting 21 new buses. And then the article went on to mention a couple items, but it didn't really say if they were looking at green buses. I don't need the answer now. When you come with the budget, maybe you could provide us a little bit more information going on with the transit, what they're doing for greening initiatives, and where the transit numbers are coming in at the end of the
And most definitely, and maybe Councillor Longo, who sits on that committee, can come back with a full report, just what's happening as far as expanding the route and Thorold and all things, good things to come in the future.
Yeah, I'll also pass those questions on to you, and then also to see if transit, I know their budget is increasing, if they're looking at doing things differently, such as getting smaller buses for routes that have a big bus that's going around empty. They need to be looking at items like that, so I'll throw those questions to both the regional councillors and also to our city councilor that sits on there. That can be discussed during the budget presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I had Councillor Hanley and then Councillor DeRose. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Whalen. In regards to municipal restructuring, we have actually something today in items of consent in regards to a study on regional government as overseen by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Can I ask, I know that regional councils have inquired, there was a report done in 2019 in regards to municipal governance. Are we going to be enlightened in the near future as to where it's projected that we go? Because I'll tell you, my initiative is, if I read between the blue lines, by 2026, there'll be no either regional government or municipal government. So is the region moving on this? Is the document going to be released so the public can see that?
I can tell you that the region sent a letter to the province to release it. It was voted on in our council meeting that we would like to see it released. So
Definitely be nice to find out where that report stood, yes.
It's in the hands of the government, but the region has asked for it. I can tell you that.
Okay, thank you very much on that behalf.
Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Councillor Whalen. Nice to see you here.
Thank you.
Councillor Whalen, just so I previously mentioned, I was going to ask a little bit about the budget update. Obviously, that'll be in January, and the wastewater and budget, and also the waste management budget. So will that all be in one package when you're back here in January?
Yes, I'll give full extent to both of them for sure.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to say that going forward, I don't think what's happening at the region, Councillor Whalen, is sustainable. If you look back the last 2 years, it looks like we're going to have about a 15% increase in our regional portion of the taxes. So I'm very concerned, especially for single parents, elderly seniors that are on a fixed income. I really don't understand. I've heard of some talk of trying to cap increases at the level of inflation or lower. I don't know why, when anybody brings that up, they seem to get shot down and ridiculed. And I just want to know your feeling about that. And I know the big answer is we're going to get a reduction in services, but you know what? People can't afford this, and it's getting frustrating. I find everything the region does, and I knew transit would be like this, it costs double what we think it's going to cost. So if I can get your input, because I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that question, Councilor DeRosa. I guarantee it won't come anywhere near 15%. So that is too much to ask for. We wouldn't be going to budget.
No,
out there.
Councillor Whalen, I mean for 2 years, last year and this year. Because this year's projected about 7%. Last year was 9, so that's 15. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, thanks for the
The
clarification.
the 2 year increase.
We'll give you a full accounting come next first part of the year, Councilor DeRosa. It's coming to budget on Thursday night, so we'll know a little bit more specifics.
Okay, so.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Oh, that's, he's going to be
Yep.
speaking on all those issues at the.
I look forward to that. The other thing I just wanted to say, I just want to ask you and Mayor Ugolini to please advocate for Thorold taxpayers, because like I said before, and I'll keep saying it, this isn't sustainable. It's not sustainable, and just please stick up for Thorold residents. I think we always get the short end of the stick, just because we're always outnumbered. But I appreciate anything you do for Thorold taxpayers. Thank you.
You'll be sure that Thorold is our one priority. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And
Anyone
Merry
else?
Christmas. Thank
Is
you.
there anyone else? I got Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Whalen. Thank you for your report, Councillor Whalen. I understand there's going to be a new recycling program rolled out in the new year. I'm wondering if you could if you have any information for our Thorold residents.
Thanks for the question, Councilor O'Hare. Yes, definitely. As of January the 1st, the new company will be taking over the region. It's called Circular Materials. They'll take over delivery of residential blue and gray box recycling collection services, which is currently administered by the region. The new company has contracted out to Miller Waste and GFL, depending which area of Niagara you lived in. So they will collect the blue and gray box materials. You won't see any difference as far as pickup service goes. And the plus side is that there's no increase to the taxpayer.
So I chair the Waste Management Committee.
There you go. That's hearing from the horse's mouth.
There is, for the first 2 years, what they call a transition period until full producer responsibility hits in 2026. There'll be no change. GFL, who's our current collector in the city of Thorold, will continue to collect. But they won't be collecting for the region. They'll be collecting for the new group. So all this has been put on the website, and we'll be pumping it out, and there'll be a lot of information coming out over the next few weeks. The only change is going to be that if you have issues, there'll be a different number to call. Other than that, everything's the same. And the only thing that's changing that they aren't picking up is books. Okay? Other than books, everything else is status quo. But that information and that number is already on the website, but we'll continue to make sure it gets communicated. Okay?
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. I had Councillor Hanley first.
Just if I could, just through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Whalen, because Councillor Deanza had mentioned buses. If we could know what the increase is going to be in regards to the transportation costs in regards to buses, and I think we need to see how much has the increase gone up, because I know it's gone up. We're paying more than we did, and I don't know if we're getting any better service.
So that is
Just the same.
that report, which Councillor Longo was at the meeting today, is coming to Regional Council on Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, so
There we
then
go.
it'll come back to our council. I mean, that information you'll know beforehand, but Tim will include it in his next, Councillor Whalen in his next report. Go ahead, Councillor Longo, you haven't spoken yet, and then I'll go to Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on the transit, we did have a meeting today. I don't want to get ahead of myself. It is going to regional for approval on Thursday, so we'll have a firm idea at that time, hopefully.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if I could just ask a
Yeah,
question
yeah, go
regarding the
ahead.
blue box pickup.
Yeah.
Say it's going to be the responsibility of the manufacturers for the pickup of recycling material for the blue box. So when you say responsibility, does that mean they have a financial responsibility? And if so, does that mean that as a regional taxpayer, will our waste bill be going down because we no longer do that?
So the new GFL will be collecting for the new group.
Right, but are they collecting with our money? Or does the manufacturer of the goods pay to have it collected? Is this just, this just a shell game going on here, or?
No,
Well, no,
it
it's-
is paid for by a producer responsibility. There are some things that are still going to be the responsibility of the municipality, and we'll get a detailed explanation. But there are some things like what they collect in areas like the BIA and all that stuff. That's still going to be paid as that's outside of that.
I understand, but I guess my question is, since the manufacturer is responsible for the program, are they responsible for the costs, thus reducing the cost to taxpayers, or not? I hate to put you on the spot.
No, you're not.
When the question
It's
came
on
up,
the
it
residential side, but it's more complicated than that, okay? So
it
we'll
must
get
be,
you all the
because I don't
details.
understand.
No,
Okay.
no, but on the residential side, that's what, but then you still have commercial and industrial, which is a whole different game, and that's not part of that collection.
Maybe we can add also that the curbside garbage pickup won't change at all. Large household items will not change. Organics, green bin will stay the same. And leaving yard waste as well as any, like
Yeah, but
special areas
that's
like.
gonna still stay under the
Yes,
region's
no change at all, yes.
responsibility. Go ahead, Councillor Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was my question I wanted to bring forward, because in the past, the region actually used to make money off recycling, at times depending on the products that they were recycling. So they may have taken some of the profitable items out of that, and they'll take care of that. But I'm sure that we're going to pay somewhere along the way additional, either through environmental fees when you buy something, or through the region in terms of billing us for more additional waste costs. So I don't see it as a benefit. I think we lost our autonomy on it, and it's going to cost us more at the end of the day.
So you have to understand, this program was instituted by the province, not the region.
Yes, I
Okay.
fully understand that, Mayor, but I'm saying sometimes when it goes to the province, it doesn't make it better.
No, no.
Thank you.
And I agree with you there. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. And pardon the pun, but I want to kind of recycle Councillor Longo's question. Who's paying for it? If taxpayers aren't, if it's coming from the province, it says the producers of products are supposed to be doing this. So when our cost as taxpayers, ratepayers, when it go down? That's what I don't understand. So I'm regurgitating Councillor Longo because I don't think he got a proper answer. And I know it is complicated, but can we have the Coles Notes version of it? Thank you.
You will get all that when we do the budget presentation. I can give you a short answer. The residential doesn't change, but there's still costs incurred to continue to do the commercial industrial. The actual increase on the waste management this year is 0, okay? So that part of the tax bill, there's no increase. But for a more detailed explanation, we'll get you the whole detailed explanation. But residential is where it's happening, but there's still costs incurred for other areas, and which the region will decide after the transition period how that's going to continue to be done.
Mr. Mayor, maybe I can add to that also. The problem was that the recycling, the cost of metals and so on went down so drastically, it was starting to lose money pretty well because of that fact.
Yeah, but that's
Yes,
goes up and down,
yes,
so
that's right,
that's
correct.
another.
Yes.
So we'll get you more information, and there's a lot of information that will be coming forward. And just so you know that the main thing is for the first 2 years, there'll be no change at the residential level, okay? And it'll be the same. It'll be the same GFL in Thorold collecting all
Correct.
of that materials.
Mr. Mayor, when's this coming forward so we can be informed?
First of January.
So there is information already that the region, and we will pump it out.
I read it all,
You
yes.
know, and there'll be
I
more
agree.
to come. And then there'll be a more detailed explanation when he does his budget presentation.
It just seems the explanation I get from the region and tonight is just clear as mud, and I'm looking forward to a detailed, thorough explanation on behalf of taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any further questions? Seeing none, okay, thank you, Regional Councillor Whalen, for coming to
Thank you, Mr.
council
Mayor. Just before I
tonight.
go, I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and a healthy and prosperous 2024.
Thank you so much. Delegations. Up next, correspondence item CLKC 95-2023 respecting ECC BAC motion regarding the number of meetings, agenda item 12.5. Joe Petrula, Chair of the Environmental Climate Change and Biodiversity Advisory Committee, is delegating. So Joe, please come to the podium, and you have up to 10 minutes to address council.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you and explain the reasoning behind the motion the ECC-BAC has put before you. My talk will be more of an update on the initiatives we have taken on since inception, but first I would like to say I'm humbled to be the chair of a committee that is comprised of members who bring different backgrounds along with compassion to the table for discussion. At our first meeting, I stated the success of this committee will hinge on community engagement. Now, what I'm doing you see in the notes that I provided, I'm doing a yearly review of what we've accomplished, what we set out to do, what we've accomplished, and I'm not going month by month, but I have grouped in certain categories, so it makes it easier for me to explain it. So I'm going to start first. We've had presentations related to capital works projects where environmental assessments are required for comment. 3 of them were conducted by Sean Dunsmore. The first one was the Kopmeyer, Merritt, Eggeter, and Towpath extension. So our committee had the presentation made to us, and we were offered the opportunity to provide input and comment on that, and there is a lot of opposition towards that particular project. Next, we had the Broderick Avenue reconstruction. I was involved in a couple of the PICs for that. The presentation itself was very good. It ended up, the commitment that I made towards the residents of that particular area, we were standing behind their desire to retain the median, or the median down the middle of the road along with the trees. So we ended up being successful in that, with being in contact with the neighborhood people, along with Councillor O'Hare, who was leading his own initiative to make sure that the residents got what they wanted. The next one that Mr. Dunsmore presented was the DQ Road construction between Richmond Street and Beaver Dams Road. We offered our own opinions and comments on that particular project. We had Dave Baldoni presented the off-leash dog park. I attended the PIC for that particular one, which was a real testy meeting, but hopefully the residents get their satisfaction out of the issues they brought to the meetings. Next, we had presentations by various environmental organizations. The first one was Liz Benny, and she is the chair of Biodiversity and Climate Action Niagara. And her presentation was creating a healthy urban forest. And this presentation really put the emphasis on how to do proper tree planting, where to plant, and what species to plant, and how to properly maintain them, which was a very good presentation, and it really fits in with a larger area of our agenda, what we've been working on with tree initiatives that's later on in the presentation here. Next, we had Aaron Rising and Luke Bach from Niagara Community Gardens Network, and this might seem a little bit odd for our particular committee, but this organization is funded by the United Way, and the presentation focuses on community cohesion created when you have neighbors working together for the betterment of others. But it also helps to produce a healthier environment in terms of eco-value. In so many different ways. I would strongly recommend to the council and anybody staff in this particular meeting right now, go back to our December 2nd meeting, the environment meeting, and view the presentation that the Niagara Community Garden Network presented. And I think you're going to be quite impressed what they lobby for. And our own committee had several good questions that they received answers that had them impressed with the concept of this organization. In terms of private industry presentations, we did have a presentation from EVSX. They presented their business plan outlining the different phases of development of battery recycling. The first phase will be recycling of alkaline batteries. It was interesting. It's still not totally clear to us in terms of how the process works, but Enrico de Cherez offered us an opportunity to do a tour of his facility, so we got to see some of the equipment. The explanation was, it did provide a little bit more clarity, but in the end, I think what we have to see is the production line set up and actually see it in operation to understand the different complexities that are involved with this particular process. And it gives us an opportunity to think of what we need to be addressing when he moves down the road with the different phases of his project. We had viewed the video presentations of Northland Power Peaker Plant Extension. They never actually did a presentation to us, but we did watch them. And at the presentation that they did to council here, our former committee vice chair, John Hamilton, he spoke to council in opposition to the proposal. And Mark Freeman, who is behind me here, who was a Thorold resident at the time and who is now committee vice chair, I'm sure you all know that he captivated this council with the presentation that he did opposing the project, which ended up being turned down unanimously, which was pleasant. As far as tree planting initiatives, Councillor O'Hare presented a 10,000 tree motion, which is still in the work plan. We looked into Tree Canada grants, and which moved forward with Councillor O'Hare. That was originally John Hamilton that was looking after that. So Councillor O'Hare took over it. The application was submitted and subsequently accepted. Thank you, Councillor O'Hare, for the work on that. So we do have $10,000 that will be coming towards the city for tree planting where it's deemed necessary. We coordinated with the MPCA, Kerry Royer, our MPCA rep, and Councillor O'Hare worked towards securing a donation of upwards of 500 trees and shrubs that were planted in the Lakeview Cemetery. And other issues related to tree planting maintenance are on our agenda, and they will be up for further discussion in the future. Committee member Leslie Daniels is working on a boulevard planting initiative. This is quite common in a lot of cities. Most cities like Toronto, Mississauga, Oakville, even St. Catharines have adapted their yard bylaws to allow for boulevard planting. There's quite a few rules and regulations that will apply to it. It's not just simply somebody goes out and buys a tray of flowers and sticks them in their boulevard. There is a lot of rules to follow. So she does have some samples that are ready, and we'll probably be moving forward with this at our February meeting next year. One thing that came up that has been in the newspapers before, and it seems to be a continuing problem around the city, is dog feces. John Hamilton was looking into that particular project. Originally, we were talking about the feces that's gathering or accumulates on the streets, but dealing with that is pretty complex, and we had no way of knowing how we could monitor results to move forward with a solution. So the conversation shifted more towards parks, where at least we have a closed area where there could be some type of program set up, and we could monitor it for success, and hopefully it would move on to other areas. During these discussions, we started to talk about whether this should be an initiative taken on just strictly by the Environment Committee, or if we should get the Parks, Recs, and Trail Committee involved in it too, as that falls under their mandate. So we could probably put our heads together on this particular issue. And then I think last but not least, I met with Jeff Holman on Friday and talked to him about the Earth Day proposal that I put forward to council on August 1st. And the discussion was around how do we get this in motion now. We talked at length about different aspects of the event, where it would be held, little things like that. Jeff suggested that I hold a meeting on January 5th, which would be our normal meeting, but not now with the new schedule. I would hold a meeting to start or create a working group for the Earth Day event, and at that point it would move to council for the January 16th meeting, and then we would get the wheels in motion to coordinate and recruit some volunteers, maybe get some other committees involved with it that would help us work towards that. So having said that, I think
Joe, you got 30 seconds.
Okay, I think I've pretty well covered everything. I'm sure that I've shown you that our agenda for this past year was full. February 2nd's meeting, we have a lot of items to discuss, and we'll probably be putting forward a working plan for next year. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much for coming and your presentation. Now I'll open the floor up for questions. Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, thanks for coming, Joe. Good presentation as usual. I just have one question for you because I sit on the Parks and Trails committee. So if this is coming forward, what about dog feces? Do you want to track it to try and get rid of it? I don't.
Well, what we saw was our own investigation. When we've talked about different initiatives within our committee, most of us are really curious about the ideas we bring to the table. So we go online and we're doing our own researching. And what we found in different municipalities, and this is where it gets pretty expensive, there's service contracts with certain organizations that they can set up a dump type container that can be contained in the ground. And some of them are a composting style, others, a company comes in and empties the container and takes it, and they take it back, and depending on how much they're collecting, they're actually using it for creating renewable energy through composting. So it's more, I think it's more costly on the city's behalf to have it done. The company coming in and collecting benefits more out of it. But there was many more options that we were looking at. And what we felt with putting it into a park, it was easy to go out in the initial phases and see what is not being picked up. And then with signage and the fact that there would be drop-off facilities, we could see how effective they are as a test, like a pilot project, so to speak, and then see how we could move forward long-term down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the presenter? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Joe, for your presentation, and I commend you for taking part and participating, and your comments about the committee successes will hinge on community engagement. That's so critical to get the community involved. Just using the Broderick example, if the citizens spoke here at council or at the public meeting here, once they put down their pitchforks and just wanted what was there reinstated, they were quite happy. So council did a great job working with them to make that happen. The question I have is more tree related. I know you're working on one policy here. What I noticed, and I'll use this as an example, maybe your committee could work with this or move on and try to come up with a policy here. There's been some redevelopment that's going to occur on St. David's, and there was 2 huge mature trees that were just cut down. They weren't on the city, but on the edge of the city property. It was so sad to see them go because, yes, you could plant new trees, but those trees had to be at least 50 to 100 years old, and now they're gone. Like, they were huge. They were like this big. And they just got cut down, and now there's going to be houses developed there. So I'd like to see some sort of policy that trees just don't get cut down. They have to really work around that and make sure the development is part of it and those trees stay there. Planting new ones doesn't help us because it's going to take a long time before they get to that mature stage. So I don't know if you've noticed that, but maybe the committee could look at that and maybe develop some sort of policy that can help the city out, maintain those trees as opposed to having them disappear.
You're right, Councillor DeAngelo. Early in the term, first part of our term, this was something that Councillor O'Hare brought up, actually, was a mature maintenance tree program. And I think St. Catharines was trying one, and what happened with them, because they didn't have a fully developed program, like an actual maintenance program, so they started cutting down the older trees faster than they were replacing newer trees. So they were actually diminishing their tree canopy, so to speak. I don't have the expertise to offer a solution on that, but that is something that the city should be looking at, where you're doing a tree inventory, true maintenance programs. This is what Liz Benion talked about in her Creating an Urban Forest, was your maintenance crews that are growing around cutting the grass. They have to avoid making contact with the tree trunk with weed whackers. So hence, you want to start doing mulching around the trees. You want tree guards around the base of the tree. This all ensures that if you're going to plant a $600 tree, it's going to grow to maturity. If it's not properly maintained, or if it's not the right tree in the right location, then it's destined to die. So it is a very extensive program that somehow maybe we can pick this up and do some research on it and see what we're capable of starting with.
Thank you. Any further questions? Counselor?
If I could just touch on that. No, I thank you very much. My concern that I was bringing up is more development that's occurring, and they just cut the trees down, which is different than sort of a maintenance of mature trees. So that's something, I don't know if there's other policies in other communities that prevent that, but I think that needs to be looked at.
I would suggest that that would be something that the city can look into when they're, with the policies that they would have with developers, that, you know, when they're talking about how much green space they have to have, and if trees are in a particular developed area, undeveloped area, and it's going to be developed, and they have an inventory of trees that are there, if there's 500 trees and they cut down 300 and plant 5, I think the developer's getting off pretty easy on that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dedivides.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great job, Joe, in the presentation. I just had a question for Earth Day 2024. I'd like to see if you can reach out to elementary schools, get all the young kids involved in this. Because like my son, he's 13 years old. He's so serious and so wants to get involved in these type of activities.
Yeah. The theme basically on this with, you know, it's going to be split 50-50. So there's going to be education providers, plus then there's going to be vendors. I haven't set the criteria for the vendors yet. They're going to be juried. But it's going to be targeted at probably your 9 to 13-year-olds. They are our future environmental stewards. And interestingly, I have found a group in Hamilton out of the Eco House, and it's a youth activist group within the school system there. They call themselves Youth for Climate Justice, and I've reached out to the chair of the committee, Jordan. She's on board for participating. I think that they've sent me their mandate. They're very new. They only formed their committee in July of this past year. But Jordan sees this as an opportunity to spread the message to this particular area to get the youth active in the school system. So you're right on cue, or right on target, that this is where it's really got to be directed, because the old people, you know, we don't change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor O'Hare, go ahead.
Actually, if Councillor Handley wants to go first, please.
Go ahead, Councillor Handley.
I was just going to state, I knew from looking online an article on, there's actually an article on the municipal world, because I knew it was here, but I'd already seen it online in regards to the town of Lincoln's innovative approach to stormwater management, and what it does, it deals with the dispersing of the stormwater for the healthier growth of the trees. And, you know, I don't want to get into it, but if you do look online or in municipal world, there's actually an initiative in there that they've initiated to help the growth population of trees in their municipality, and they actually say that they look at them as stewards that other municipalities should be looking at to follow.
Thank you. Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a question for you. Is this an appropriate time to bring up the item for consent, 12.5? We're going to be dealing with it.
No, it's coming up as soon
Okay,
as
I wasn't sure if we would tie it in with this
Oh,
or. Okay,
this is
thank
just
you.
questions to the presenter,
Yep,
and then
thank
we'll
you.
bring that forward. Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, thank you so much, Joe, for coming today, and thank you for your presentation.
And thank you for listening to me.
And thank you to the committee as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have CLKC 95-2023 Environment, Climate Change and Biodiversity Advisory Committee motion regarding the number of meetings per year. Can I get a mover and a seconder, first of all? Councillor DeAngelo and Councillor O'Hare. Okay, the motion's on the floor. There it is. Now you can speak to it, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as council has heard, the Environmental Committee is a very active committee, a very involved committee. And the environment being a #1 issue that we all are facing in our current lives tells us how important this committee is. There are things to be done all the time. And the request from the chair and from the committee to be able to meet more often is really quite important in this day and age. So with the struggles that we're facing, the challenges that we're facing, I would hope that council might support readdressing the number of meetings that the environmental committee will be granted.
So then I will get the clerk to explain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the schedule as it is has been set for 6 regular meetings a year. That's based on the motion approved at the last council meeting. First, Mr. Mayor, I want to advise that that does not limit the committee from calling special meetings, even scheduling special meetings throughout the year, so they could very easily reach 12 just by doing that, sometimes even more than that. That being said, should the committee wish to reconsider the motion, there is some procedure that the committee needs to understand. With a reconsideration, first committee must provide notice of motion. So you'd have to provide a notice of motion today. That notice of motion would then bring forward the motion at a future meeting, which is to reconsider. Should that be the case, that means it comes back in January, and since we don't want to impact the committee, should council wish to go back to the 12 meetings, we would schedule the committee for a January meeting to make sure that they don't miss anything. And then at the January council meeting, council could reconsider their original motion. Now, a reconsideration is a 2/3 majority vote, and assuming that passes, it puts the motion back on the floor as is, which would allow council to amend it if they wanted.
Okay, so we'll do that under notice of motion.
Okay.
Okay.
So, excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Council want to speak to that?
If I could just ask through you to Mr. Trenum, does that mean that we would have the 2/3 vote today, or only when the notice of motion or the motion comes to the floor?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it would mean today somebody can provide a notice of motion that they would like to bring forward a reconsideration motion of this. If that is the case, what the clerk's office will do is we will schedule a environment committee meeting for January, so nothing is missed. And then at the January council meeting, whoever brings forward that notice would bring forward the reconsider motion. Then you have the 2/3 vote in the January meeting. If that passes, that puts the original motion back on the floor for consideration.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I may, I would like to proceed with that notice of motion.
Well, when we get to notice of motion on the agenda.
Okay, right. Okay, thank you.
And knowing that, Mr. Mayor, given that the committee members are in the room, we will reach out within the next few days to schedule that January meeting for them.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Diaz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking for some clarity here. You mentioned there's 6 scheduled meetings. Now, if they were to have meetings every month, but they were not official committee meetings, but subcommittee meetings, do we still have staff attending the subcommittee meetings?
So a little bit of clarity with that, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the councillor. There is the difference between, so there are no subcommittees, there are working groups. So the committee can set up working groups. As a great example, if they were to set up a working group for the Earth Day event, that would have fewer members than quorum. Those committee members get together in the working group and they can meet anytime. The clerk's office and other staff are not necessarily involved. Sometimes they are, if we're getting an example being the market committee that met together to come up, met with councillors, met with staff. So it all depends on what the matter is, but it does not require clerk staff or city staff to attend those meetings.
Okay, that's something I just wanted to pose. I wish I could have asked Joe that question as the chair, because that gives them more flexibility to meet maybe 2-3 times if they're working on a project, because I know other committees do the same thing. So that is a way around of scheduling. Just because you schedule 12 meetings, there's still work being done. So it's just consuming a lot of time, and if staff's being pulled all over the place and can't really attend those meetings, because I know we're having some quorum issues with some of the other committees that I sit on, it's causing problems. So if a working group is better than a structured meeting, that would be fine, but I would like to hear from the committee regarding what they prefer best. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask a question. I don't know if it's the right time now or if we should wait until this is brought back, but can we get an explanation, and we probably should have asked last meeting, the rationale for going from 12 to 6?
I'll let the clerk Can you answer that?
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor. There are a number of factors at play. In this particular case, with this particular meeting, there is no member of the staff that is specifically geared towards all of the work happening on the committee. So what we find is, dependent on the agenda, we might be pulling in 1, 2, or 3 different departmental staff members to attend the meeting, or to be prepared for the meeting, and or be responsible for a report that comes from the discussions of the meeting. We don't have a great deal of ability of getting staff out to a lot of these meetings in that case, just because we're limited in staff time when it comes to some of this work, which is why the recommendation was to, let's go to the 6 meetings, allow the off months or the bi-monthly to allow for working groups, or the committee to perhaps call special meetings to allow for community presentation rather than staff time, giving staff a little bit more time between meetings to work on those reports.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so we're gonna vote to receive this and then we'll deal, okay? So we're just voting, because it's a consent report, but we'll deal with the notice of motion at notice of motion. I had a mover and seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, so now we move on to the public statutory public meeting. I'll call to order the public meeting being held pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act as amended respecting zoning bylaw amendment for 1914 Glover Road. I'll call on Eldon Darbison, Director of Planning for Valley Consultant, for the applicant presentation respecting the zoning bylaw amendment application for 1914 Glover Road. So welcome, Eldon, and you know this chambers well, so. You're up.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you for having me here this evening. We're here to talk about a zoning bylaw amendment for 1914 Glover Road here in Thorold. Under the Planning Act, notice is required. The city has confirmed that circulation did occur in accordance with the Planning Act, and the required notice sign was posted not less than 20 days prior to the public meeting. My name is Eldon Darbison. I'm a registered professional planner with G. Douglas Valley Limited. I'm here on behalf of our clients, South Central Industrial, Rob and Nikki Kahn. So the subject lands are on the east side of Glover Road. They're east of the canal. They're at the very end, actually, of Glover Road. The size of the property is about 17.5 acres, including a hydro corridor. You can see that run through the lands. There's about 160 meters of road frontage. The lands are primarily farmed. As you can see, most of the surrounding area is also farmed. There's some pockets of environmental features in the area. The premise is occupied by the owner's residence, and several buildings are used to support the farming business and the welding and fabrication business here. So this proposal has 4 components to it. The first component is to amend the zoning bylaw to recognize the legal non-conforming use of welding and fabrication within existing buildings. The image there is a zoom in of a site plan. The second component is to permit an expansion in the form of a bridge crane building. This building is essential to support this growing business. It has the ability to improve safety for employees. Currently, the operation uses mobile vehicles to haul steel products. The bridge crane will replace the mobile vehicles and improve safety. It also improves compatibility with the surrounding land uses. The building itself is set back away from the road. It reduces noise, dust, and it protects the employees and the products from environmental elements such as snow, wind, and rain. The third component is to construct a cul-de-sac on behalf of the city at the end of Glover Road. Currently, city and regional vehicles will come to the road and they'll turn around on the property in the driveway. The owner has offered to construct and supply all the materials for a city cul-de-sac.
And the fourth component is to actually convey this half of the bulb, which is on the owner's property, to the city so that the city has full ownership and long-term maintenance and all the legal rights to that cul-de-sac. So the owners, they value the protection of agricultural lands. The primary use is agricultural. The idea is to confine all buildings to that red box that's on the screen. The existing buildings occupy about 1.6% of the total land area. The proposed bridge crane will be about 4.4% of the total land area, and all combined just under 7%. The zoning bylaw allows for up to 20%. This is not the intent to develop 20% of the lands. There are two businesses that occur on the property. The first business is farming, processing, storage, and transportation of cash crops. And the second business is a welding and fabrication business. This business has been run by the family for over 30 years. It started with the fabrication of equipment for farming and City of Thorold vehicles. It's grown and it produces steel products that range from agricultural equipment to airport towers to steel buildings. Quite the variety. The existing business has grown over the years. They have 12 employees, and with the expansion, they are anticipating at least 5 more employees. So we looked at the policies. The Niagara region has provided some comments on this in respect to policy. I'll just summarize that. So they don't offer any objections. Their review has indicated that the application is full compliant with provincial and regional policy. This is including the provincial policy statement, the guidelines on permitted uses in Ontario's prime agricultural areas, provincial growth plan, and the Niagara region official plan. So in this case, the application checks all the boxes from a provincial and regional policy perspective. We also looked at the City of Thorold official plan and zoning bylaw. The lands are designated and zoned agricultural. In particular, section E2.3 in the official plan is a policy to permit legal non-conforming uses, provided that they meet the 4 tests. These 4 tests are on your screen there. The zoning will not permit any change of use or performance standard that may negatively impact adjoining uses. The uses do not constitute a danger to surrounding land uses, humans, or animals by virtue of their hazardous nature. 3, the uses do not interfere with the appropriate development of the surrounding lands. And number 4, when the use is discontinued, rezoning may only take place in accordance with the policies and intent of this plan. So our analysis of the 4 tests reveal that the amendment does not change the use to facilitate impacts on adjoining uses. The use is managed well and is not a danger to surrounding land uses, humans, or animals by virtue of a hazardous nature. C, the use is proposed to be confined to a specific area and does not interfere with the appropriate development of surrounding lands. And number 4, it's that the use hasn't ceased, so the test is not applicable here. We passed the 4 tests. I was provided with some additional comments before the meeting tonight. The application was circulated to a number of agencies. There are no comments or concerns for most of them. The comments that we did receive are from Thorold Engineering. They require a grading plan for review as well as a site plan. The Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, they've provided comments as well. They're asking for Stage 1 and Stage 2 archaeological study. This was completed and entered into the ministry's registry, so the site is for the bridge crane has been cleared. And some of the additional comments from the region, they are asking the city just to comment on minimum distance separation, which basically is a formula to make sure that any new buildings don't have impacts on livestock. I've conducted that review and submitted that as part of our submission package. There are no conflicts. And finally, they advise that The septic systems will be subject to meeting the Ontario Building Code requirements, and that the owners will comply. That's it for the additional comments. So in closing, this is a long-standing legal non-conforming use. It's a growing local family business, provides employment, checks all the boxes from a policy perspective. From the Thorold official plan, it passes those key 4 tests. There are no impacts generated. The use is compatible, and in particular, it preserves agriculture. We're asking for council's favorable consideration this evening. Thank you very much. We're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Alden, and I'll open the floor to questions for the presenter. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Darvison, thanks for the presentation. Looks like a great expansion. My question, though, is the primary use is agriculture. Is there not a need or requirement to have an environmental impact statement just to make sure everything is going to be working as predicted?
Not in this case, through Mr. Mayor, not in this case. There was no requirement identified through pre-consultation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Darvison, for presenting. You've done this many times in this chamber. Just a question regarding the cul-de-sac, because it's unusual to have a cul-de-sac at the end of a dead-end street in the rural area. But I'm looking at it, it does look very enticing in the sense of improving the area there. Were there any comments from the region or from city engineering regarding the design of it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. The engineering department was quite pleased that the owner had offered to construct this. We will have to meet city standards for the cul-de-sac, and I believe the only cost is the, Mr. Dunsmore, correct me if I'm wrong, the grading plan, the surveying and grading plan.
Well, that's excellent, because I think it enhances that road, and especially plowing, it makes it a little safer when the plow comes down there. It actually has a turning radius as opposed to a dead-end stop, which can cause problems. So I'm glad to see that, and it looks like it's a good project, expanding and creating jobs in our community in a good location.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? Councillor Dedevitis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a chance to go down there and take a look at it. The cul-de-sac is definitely, you need that, and you're doing a great job down there. I was pretty impressed with the whole facility. And I'm looking forward to this project, especially a family business and growing in Thorold. Is hats off.
Very good. Anyone else? Seeing none, Alden, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Registered speakers. At this time, is there anyone online or present in the chamber who wishes to speak to the applications? Do we have anyone?
No one online.
There's no one here. I'll ask one more time. At this time, is there anyone online or present in the chamber who wishes to speak on the applications? There is no one. Okay. Planning report, 1131, DS 67 2023. Report DS 67 2023 is only presented to council and the public for information purposes. It is currently open for questions and/or comment from members of City Council. Please note all comments will be captured by city staff and incorporated into the final report, which will be brought forward for a future council meeting for consideration. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Councillor D'Angelo, Councillor Dedevitis. Is there anyone that has any further questions before I take the vote or comments? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adjournment of the public meeting. This fulfills the requirement of the Planning Act pursuant to Section 34. The public meeting portion of these applications is now adjourned. Items for consent. Can I get a mover and a seconder for items of consent? I got Councillor Decker and Councillor Sentence. Do councillors want to lift any consent items, 12.1 through 12.10? Please let me know. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 12.3, please.
And go ahead, Councillor Longo.
12.1, Mr. Mayor.
Is there anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
12.6.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so we got 12.2, 12.4, 12.7, 12.8, 12.9, 12.10. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, 12.1. We'll start with Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the one where you're going to submit to be a speaker, I believe?
So what we will do with council's approval is submit for me to speak, but we'll also do a written submission. And we'll be getting information together as well as any input from council for written submission. In talking to the other mayors at region, it looks like the ones I've talked to so far, all the mayors will be presenting on behalf of their municipality.
Okay, so that was my question. So you'll be reaching out to members of council just to get some input on this?
So if with this passes, then what I would recommend is that we will be brainstorming. We'll put some information out, and then you can add information to that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? So I would appreciate it that we get that information. You know? Anyone else want to speak to that? Go ahead, Councillor Dean.
Yeah, I just want to concur. I completely agree that we need the mayor, yourself, to speak at this to defend our position in terms of our autonomy. And then I like the idea of putting what you have in place right now, send it out to the councillors, and we could add additional.
Add to it. Because it's nice to work off a working document. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that the focus on this, from what I've been told so far, is housing and driving efficiencies are two big things that are going to be an important part.
Yeah, and I think we have some good examples of working together with other municipalities that we don't need to be taken over.
That's right.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. I just have to ask, driving efficiencies in regards to automobiles, or driving efficiencies in regards to?
Driving efficiencies is...
Well, the way the world's going, you gotta watch what you say nowadays, because...
That's a good point.
You know, that's like putting in all these here cameras are gonna come in and watch. That's just to keep track of everybody going in and out, you know?
Anyway, anyone else? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 12.3, Community Events Advisory Committee request concerning TD Niagara Jazz Festival event. And it was Councillor O'Hare.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to ask if we could add that this gets referred to budget.
Okay. And I see that investigate the cost, and with that cost, and refer it to budget as a budgetary item. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's the amendment. We'll vote on that amendment first, but we'll have a discussion on the amendment first. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, I just, because it says June 29th, and then Canada Day is Monday, July 1st. Is that to be incorporated as the whole Canada Day event, and that's what they're working? Because it has a separate name, so I'm just wondering if that...
Yes, okay, so what we know so far, just so, and he'll have that when it comes to budget, is the TD Jazz Festival wants to hold what they want to call a World Music Day in the park. Incorporate it with our Rock and Blues in Canada Day. They are going to pay for the entertainment, the sound, everything. The only ask, and that's why there'll be costs associated, which will get referred to budget with staff costing, is the extra day of the tents and the fencing and things like that. But as far as the entertainment and associated costs with sound and security, they're willing to pay for all of that. So once we have that number, then we'll bring it to budget and council can decide how they want to
So
proceed.
thanks for the explanation. I just wanted to make sure that we're tying both events together.
Yes,
so
that's
that
why
additional
they came
cost-
to us, because it fits with this year's, the way the weekend runs.
Yeah, excellent, thank you.
Councillor Didavide.
I just want to say, this is very exciting for Thorold that more people know about what great facilities we have, the stage, and how great our Canada Day party is. It's growing, so this is really exciting news.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, wait.
Do you have a seconder for the amendment?
Oh, sorry. We're going to do the amendment first. Can I get a seconder for the amendment to refer it to budget? Councillor D'Angelo. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now, the full item, that staff be directed to investigate associated costs having the TD Niagara Jazz Festival on Saturday, June 29th, 2024 at the Battle of Beaver Dams Park, and that the report be considered with the 2024 budget deliberation. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, and accounts payable on November 30th, 2023. Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to declare a conflict on JBM Office Systems. I believe it's check 124973. My brother works for that company, and we're paying them for some services. That was one item I wanted to mention. And the other one, I just had some questions. I know some of them might not be answered now, so I'll just, as in the past, just refer them to the staff, and they can send me an email. And I'll just go over it. There's just a handful of them. One is under members of council, we had almost $7,706.34 for legal fees. If I could maybe just get an update of what those legal fees related to. Don't need an answer now, but just in the future, an email would suffice. Similar to the next one was on page 12. There was quite a bit of Sullivan-Manny legal fees in the bylaw department. I'm just wondering if those are related to new policies or if that's related to some of the cleanup elements that are happening. Again, I don't need an answer right now. There's been about three bills that were roughly around $3,000. Just a bit of clarity on that.
Well, we're getting these noted.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, excellent. Also in there, I don't know if there's an answer to it now, but I know there's the urge to purge. There's quite a few invoices in there. Some of them are pretty high. Just want to make sure, have we instituted the new policy that council had? Because I know we haven't put it out for tender yet, but I just wanted to make sure that citizens, especially with large bills, are getting a pre-consultative amount so they have an idea or that they could do it themselves, or if they can continue with urge to purge. I just want to make sure that's happening.
I'll ask Jason that. He might be able to answer
Mayor?
that right now.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, the invoices that you see on the accounts payable would be from cleanups that occurred prior to council requesting that new policy. Since that, our current contractor is unwilling to provide estimates, and so cleanups have not been occurring until we get the tender out there.
Okay, just so the current provider's doesn't want to do estimates on the cleanup costs?
They've identified that they're unable to provide us that service.
Okay.
So when is that going to be going out for RFP?
Through Mr. Mayor, I intend on advertising that before the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Go ahead.
So that hopefully we get that RFP corrected. Whoever the new firm is will work on getting that situated. Okay, that's good to know. Just on page 20, and just for my own knowledge here, there's quite a bit of charges to the staffing edge. Now, I think it's under Port Robinson Transportation. Is that running the bus during the winter months to provide service to the Port Robinson residents because of the bridge removal? Is that what it is?
Who's in charge of that? What department looks at? Well, you got that?
No, we'll get.
Okay. We'll get you that response.
Okay, yeah, because there's there's quite a bit of charges there, and I just wanted to make sure that's what it is. And if that's the case, are we looking at managing that as best we can, if it is for the bus transportation when the ferry service stops? So just if I get a bit of an update on that, that would be great. I think that's all. I had a couple other ones, but they're not urgent, so that's good enough for me for this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor DeAngelo. So we had a mover and seconder, same mover and seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. So that covers all of those. Okay. Items for consideration, CAO 15-2023, Strategic Planning for the City of Thorold. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Sentence and Councillor Hanley. And I'll turn it over. There it is on the screen. And anybody who wants to ask questions to their CAO, go ahead.
No question, just, no
Or
question.
comments, it's, yeah, comments.
Question, just thrilled to see this. I've been pushing, trying
Yeah.
to get this moving forward, and I'm glad to see that we're getting our consultant in to start the process, which is great. We need to get moving on that so this council can put a stamp on what we want to accomplish over the next 3 years. So I'm happy to see this report here this evening. Thank you.
Yes, and we'll move on that in short order, correct? Yeah. Yep. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one, under budgetary status, it says it's within the approved budget for the project, but it doesn't say what the approved budget was. Normally it does. Do we know what that was?
I think it's about 50,000.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. CLKC 85-2023, annual appointment of the Committee of Adjustment Council member. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the report? Councillor Decker and Councillor O'Hare. And the report is there. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let the clerk speak to this.
Yeah, so in accordance with subsection 44 sub 3 of the Planning Act, we are required, if we have a member of the Committee of Adjustment who is also a council member, to appoint that position annually. So at this point, we're just looking for nominations from council to fill that seat.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to nominate Councillor Ditavitas. Thank you.
Do we need a second? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
I'd like to nominate myself to be returned to the committee.
Can you do that?
Yep.
Okay. So we got, anyone else? You've nominated yourself, so obviously you're accepting the nomination. Councillor Ditavitas, you were nominated. Do you accept the nomination? Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Mayor, as we've done in the past, when there's been a couple people that want to sit on a committee, we've just expanded the committee to add that person, because I know it only asks for one, or there's been one historically. So I was going to make a motion that we accept both nominations to put both members on the Committee of Adjustments.
And I'll let the clerk.
So, Mr. Mayor, looking into the wording of the legislation, although there would be nothing that would prevent council from doing this, my only advice, having reached out to a number of municipalities and seeing some research throughout the province, is I would hesitate to recommend that council go ahead with putting any council member on the committee, only because it is a delegated authority of council, and there have been certain situations throughout the province, even within Niagara, where there does tend to be some issues with council putting their own members on a committee that they've delegated authority to. So while there is nothing to prevent that, I would just caution council around expanding their own role on a committee that has delegated authority from them. So it's up to council how they would like to move forward with this. Yes, they could put multiple, they could keep one. My recommendation, were to be asked, would be that there be no council members on the committee, but again, it's council's committee, and they can choose what they would like to do.
Okay, so, did you want to make that motion? Because then if that gets defeated or accepted, we can go from that as a starting point.
Yeah.
What?
Can we comment first?
Well, you have to
Well,
get a
we'll get the
second
motion on the floor and then we can
Well,
cancel.
I'd like to move that motion to put on the floor for discussion.
For that, we expand the council roll to 2. Is there a seconder for that? Go ahead, Councillor Longo. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. The floor is open for discussion now. Go ahead, Councillor Iyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Most of you will probably remember when this came around at this time last year that I was in opposition. I felt that the Committee of Adjustment was not a place for a council member. It is permitted by the Planning Act, that's true. But it is an arm's length committee. I think it would function better without a council member on the committee. Having said that, council did vote to allow 1 member, and I fear that it then becomes a council committee as opposed to a arm's length committee. So I would be opposed to putting another councillor onto this committee, but again, I would also support no councillor on the committee. Thank you.
Okay, is anyone else? Because we're going to just vote on this first, and then we can put something else on the floor if it gets defeated, or if it doesn't, then we move forward. Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
I'm comfortable with none or 2, because I don't want to be put in a position to make a decision, because you know what? If anybody needs allies in this council, it's me, because I already know who my foes are. And there might come a day when I'm going to need one of their votes, or maybe both of their votes, because of what comes down the pipe that's been in the past here. So I like either 2 or none, because I don't want to vote for one. If it comes down for voting for one, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to abstain from voting.
Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm opposed to 2. I don't want to put too many on this committee, so I won't be voting for that. I had reservations last time about 1, but I wanted to support your initiative. So I have no problem going to none as well. Or well, that's later, or sharing this over the years. So anyways, no, not for 2, not for me. Thank you.
Councillor Decker.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree. I would go for none over the 2, and I respect the explanation that our clerk provided us this evening.
Okay, Councillor Didavides.
Yeah, I agree. I would go for none than 2 also.
Okay. Any further questions on that motion? That the committee adjust the terms of reference amended to include 2 city councillors. We had a mover and a seconder. Although, so if you,
just
yeah,
yeah,
so you
just to clarify, there was some discussion around 2 or none. If you want to vote for this motion, if you would prefer none or
a
putting
different
1,
motion,
then defeat this motion.
then we'll put a new motion on.
Correct.
That's correct. Did you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I want
motion?
to comment on that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It seems like everyone would rather have 0 than 2, expanding that. I thought having a counselor on there was a good liaison. It solved a few problems at this point in time. But if I had a choice of 2 or 0, I should say I would rather have 2 or 0 as opposed to 1. It doesn't look like there's going to be support for 2, so I'd like to withdraw that and put a motion on the floor that will have 0 counselors on the committee.
Okay, so this motion's withdrawn. You're going to put a motion on the floor that we have 0 councillors. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Sentence. Anyone want to speak to 0 councillors?
I think that's great. I totally understand what Matthew said. I think there'd be no councillor should be on this committee.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing no one else, the motion, oh, did you want to speak on that, Councillor?
Well, I just have a question about the composition of the committee. If there's 1 less person, are we going to have voting issues? Do we have an even number of members left?
At large by 1.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the council, so that would leave the committee with 6 members. As an adjustment to how quorum works for the committee, What the legislation says is if you are a committee of 3, quorum is 2. If you are a committee of more than 3, quorum is 3. So even though 3 members would not be quorum of 6, generally speaking, for committee of council, if only 3 show up, you can still have a meeting, because that counts as quorum.
No,
In the case of a situation where there is a tied vote, that's probably not going to happen because you have 5 members and then the chair, who would only vote in the case of a tie, so he would be voting to create a tie. And again, there's no abstentions in the committee, so it shouldn't come up as an issue. But if that happened and all 6 members voted, the chair breaks the tie, so however the chair voted would be the decision. Does that make sense?
So my question is, before I go over to Councillor DeAngelo, prior to having a council member on the committee, what was the composition of the committee? Okay, so
what happened when we were putting members on the committee is council liked 6 of the applicants and chose to put 6 on rather than the 5 that was in the terms of reference, and then added the councillor position, making it 7 and amending the terms of reference at that time. So that's how we got to 7 members. Removing the councillor brings us to 6.
And but the chair.
The chair breaks the tie.
Well,
so there wouldn't really be
a tie. No. Okay, go ahead. Well, no, Councillor DeAngelo has his hand up first, then Councillor.
Yeah. Well, we should change the motion up there because it says 2. So just if anyone's watching,
that's good.
So we want to change that to 0, and then I would make a second amendment that the committee be reduced to 5 through a grandfathering clause. So if a member does leave, it doesn't get replaced. So that going into the next term, the terms of reference would have 5 people, not 6.
Can we do
But
that?
we're not taking anyone off the current committee. Only if someone steps down, they won't be replaced. And the next.
What I would suggest, Mr. Mayor, is should somebody step down, we'll come back to council with the vacancy, and council at that time would.
Okay.
Well, the only reason I suggest it now is because if you're changing the terms of reference, you might as well change it to 5 for future, so that you're not going through this process again.
I don't know if you can do that. I'll let the clerk make that comment.
What we can do is we can take it as a secondary amendment. We won't actually amend the terms of reference this time, but we'll take it as direction to staff that should it drop, at that time the terms of reference be approved to be amended to 5. So
I'm
that's fair.
Good with that, so it's a direction.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but we're gonna vote on the committee adjusted terms of reference.
Sorry, I'll put it.
Yep, I need to read it, because be amended to remove the city councillor position, okay? And I had a mover, who moved that? And who's, and sentence. I just want to make sure we got everything. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And I'm happy that that was done in a manner that I think is the best. I think council made a great, wise decision.
Thank you.
Okay. Notice of motion, I know Councillor O'Hara, you wanted to say that you're bringing notice of motion next meeting?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'd like to bring a notice of motion regarding the scheduling of the Environmental Climate Change and Biodiversity Committee.
Okay,
So just to advise both you and the public, Mr. Mayor, so that is a notice of motion that the next council meeting, he'll be bringing forward a motion to reconsider the previous decision.
Okay. But you are also going to book a meeting for January.
That's
so
correct.
that they are meeting and can still do their business, okay? Anything else? Okay, statement by councilors. I'll call on Councillor Sentence for his statement by councilors.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to the council, I just want to bring a couple things to our attention. Probably already know, but this one is Kim Rossi is leaving Pathstones. She's on to a new adventure. And Lorraine Sneher, if I mispronounce her name, I apologize, is going to be taking over, and we're going to try and get her to come and introduce herself in the new year. I just want to thank Kim for everything she did for the region and for getting our walk-in center going. So I wish her the best in the future. In talking to her, she wanted me to also mention that the new 988 suicide prevention line is now open and running. They're expecting about 700,000 calls a first year. It's local operators and people that you will be talking to. So it's not someone, you're talking to someone in British Columbia, you'll be talking to someone local. You can text or call, either way, if you want to do it. And if I could ask staff if we could put something on our website to let people know, another avenue where they can go. This will save lives, and her initiative is to just mention it to one person a day, not someone in crisis, but to just say, hey, this thing's up and running. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll work with Natalie and
thank you.
Get that done. Okay, thank you very much. And I'll call on Councillor Hanley for his statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge some individuals, as I've done in the past for actually over 2 decades. You've helped me in the past. Councillor Longo has. I went out last Friday and was helping others so that they may enjoy the holidays with their children. I just want to, make some sense. I started helping families, I was thinking the other day, back in the 90s with a fellow councillor in the late Mike Murphy, who actually worked at Maplehurst Manor at the time. And Mr. Griffiths was some type of, philanthropist, and he actually back then gave us $5,000 a year that we would then, through community care and others, support 10 families at $500 each. And at the time, Gabe and Leslie Cameloni Home Hardware would do all the gifts and clothing. And since then, myself, and along with, as you helped me in the past, Councillor Longo has, this year Councillor DeRose has, but this past Friday I was able to deliver to community care to Maxine vouchers, gifts and clothes that would support 6 adults and 6 family through them. And outside of there, we took care of 4 other adults, 2 other children, 2 single mothers. Besides that, I went out to Thorold South Action, got an individual out there that's on the down and outs and picked them up and took them to Walmart and bought them new boots. I got all the donations given to me, so I wanted to thank Daryl and Gina, Dave, my wife, Sal, Russ and Donna, Liuna Local 837 Middleport, Carpenters Local 785 Middleport, Cuss W Middleport, IUOE Local 7983, Deanna from Gallagher's Food Market in Pelham, Glenn, Karen and Mike, Herb, former owner of Modern Mosaic in Niagara Falls, Allison, and all others that donated for making Christmas a special thing this for a lot of families in Thorold and in our local community.
Thank you so much, Councillor Hanley, and thank you for your continued efforts on that. It's very important in the community. Okay, bylaws. Can I get a mover and a seconder for bills 176 through 2023 through 180 2023? Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor O'Hara and Councillor Decker. So that's 19.1 through 19.5. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adjournment. There being no further business, this meeting is hereby adjourned at 8:07 p.m.